Hello? Shadow control is on the air. Every person in his life repeatedly encounters magic and what is inexplicable. And when faced with this, he often forgets, although the consequence remains. And the question is, what is magic? False or true? Magic exists and it is real. If magic was a fantasy or a deception, it wouldn't have existed for so many thousands of years. And throughout all this time, it has seduced and seduces the masses of people to this day. Magic is the oldest and most numerous religion, the religion of Satan, whose adherents are even atheists. That is why all the prophets at all times said about the inadmissibility of practicing magic, that magic does not lead to hell. And yet, some religions, originally built on the true teachings introduced by the prophets, today openly engage in magic, conduct various magical rituals, offerings, sacrifices. But after all, the prophets did not do this and, moreover, bequeathed not to do it. All these actions are imposed by the devil. Just like begging. Allegedly, God has material goods and health. But the prophets said, it is not worth asking God for anything, except for the salvation of the soul. It turns out that those who had to fight and resist magic openly serve Satan. Why is she so attractive? When people, knowing about the ruinousness, and, nevertheless, exchange the eternal for the momentary, ghostly material. Yes, the invisible world exists, and it is diverse, like the ocean is full of unknown life. And together with you, friends, we would like to understand at least a little bit about what magic really is, why it is so tempting, and how the invisible world really works. Hello. Shadow control is on the air, and today we have a guest in the category behind the scenes of magical secrets, runologist and tarologist Lyudmila. Hello, Lyudmila.
Hello.
Lyudmila, the first question I want to ask you is, what are runes?
Runes. This is the Scandinavian alphabet that originated, to say for sure. Scientists are lost when exactly, because this alphabet was used by the Scandinavian peoples, in principle the north of our globe. The runes themselves, they have no magical subtext. A rune, it is magical only if it is specified, activated. It is stipulated how it will be deactivated. If a message is embedded in this rune, then it can, let's say, carry some kind of energy message and do what, let's say, we asked for, what we said over this rune. In Scandinavian magic, there are gods in the runes, just like we do, yes. That is, we have Yarila whom we worship, there is one god there. Actually, it all started with him. God alone is the one who served for people. He fulfilled people's requests. He was approached if it was necessary to ask for protection, strength, recovery, good luck in battle. Someone asked for wealth from him. He served the people. I think, after all, of all the gods that exist in runic magic, this is the most such. Well, he heads, let's say, all the other gods under him.
It's at the top of the pantheon.
That's right.
All right. Here is the sign that is on the rune. Is it a separate letter of some kind, from which you can make a word, or is it still a specific symbol that has a certain meaning under itself?
Of course, each rune has its own meaning, and I understand you're talking about knitting runes. There are runic ligatures. This is when 2, 3, 4 runes of runes are knitted. And it turns out in ordinary words, a drawing. There is a runic stave. It includes 10 or more runes, and this is already such, let's say, a large-scale and complex drawing. Here, the runes may include more alpha signs, may include more midyar runes. That is, in principle. Let's say the runic itself has become as such. Yes, it can include runes of other nationalities. That is, from this, he only, let's say, becomes stronger and works longer, can, let's say, take on a more serious task. Because if a person has a request, a message, a serious request, accordingly, more runes should go there, into this touristic composition, in order to fulfill what a person asks.
Why should they be involved? What is the essence of this particular action?
Look, there are different directions of ironic magic. Let's say if we want to influence the subconscious awareness report. And here come the hidden runes, yes. They are subdivided into all runes. There are runes that can work in love magic, that is, the runic love magic of the direction. There are runes that can work in order to cause harm. Yes, it's such as damage here for some accidents. There are runes that can work as healing. Yes, they are picked up and knitted. Here, there are runes, here I say, the consciousness of the subconscious, which work. And here runes are already being selected, specifically Padrunacheski becoming. In other words, we take a set of runes, sit down in front of them, and say, here we need to create a kind of becoming. There is such an intention. That is so that, well, let's say this person agrees to sign a contract or contract with me today. That is, I need to influence this person. And based on this, runes are selected. Yes, that is, diagnostics is carried out. Diagnostics. This is generally the first thing that exists. That should generally be before you take a set of runes in your hands and are going to apply a runic stave that you found on the internet, well, or someone recommended it to you. I believe that even turning to a chronologist practitioner who works with you, you should make sure that this person is, well, really you.
An expert, yes, and understands what he is doing.
Well, what he's doing is, first of all. Secondly, in my practice there have been such cases when clients came to me, showed me the amulets that they were given. These amulets did not work for wealth, but worked as thieves. That is, they gave it to a person. A person does not understand what it is at all. He wears it. He thinks that this will make him richer, but in fact the person who made him this amulet, he pulls off the benefits from it. Therefore, everything is much more complicated here. But if we are talking about the impact on the consciousness and subconscious of a person, we knit runes, let's say hidden ones, that can penetrate into the consciousness of the subconscious, change a person's thought to the thought that we need. As a rule, these are runic staves. They are one-time. They work in order to fulfill their plans. That is, the person signed the contract, and then this ironic composition is simply deactivated. He has done his job. There is still such a moment, so that, let's say, the more complicated the request, the more interested we need to be. That is, runes. They can do their job and work with runes, yes, that is, on this very egregor, which has already gained its strength. But sometimes you can ask the gods for help. If this is, let's say, love magic, we can ask for help from the goddess Freya. If this is magic, which spoils negativity, we can turn to Loki. We can turn to the same Samamudin. Yes, that is, if we want them to spend together and it was some kind of destructive direction, negativity. If we ask for help in healing so that we can be helped there, let's say on a trip, either recovery or it can be energy in order to gain strength when a person, let's say, has been ill and he is weakened. It's hard for him to get up in the morning, he can't concentrate on work. Then energy is made an amulet in which runes are knitted, let's say, which relate to harmonizing. You can summon Odin again, you can freak, well, that is in different ways. I see.
But the moment that concerns the runes that affect the consciousness, the subconscious of a person. Purely such, well, probably a Philistine question. This rune is another person, on whom the impact is calculated, should he see it. Or is that how it works?
Yes, runes are drawn. If we want to, let's say, influence a person, we conduct all, as it were, runic, magical rites on the photo of this person. Some people can, again, it all depends on the strength of your intention, on visualization, because some people can just draw a cucumber with 4 sticks, call this cucumber Vassia Pupkin, and, as it were, say, here, do this, that's it, and it will work, because there is a strong intention, there is.
And this intention should be, I apologize to the person who is addressing you, or to the practitioner who has already implemented it.
Who turn to me. But the people who come to me, I work exclusively on photographs. There are, I know, those who can simply draw a cucumber on a leaf, call it by a certain name, but these are the people who have had personal contact with the person they want to influence. In other words, they already had some kind of energy exchange. As a practitioner, I did not have personal contact with the person the customer wants to act on, so I only need a photo. If it is love magic, or it is a suggestion of submission, then in order to identify yourself, you need blood. In addition to the fact that we draw runes in the photo, we direct these runes with blood. Thus, to a person, when we say that Misha should love Masha, then this blood here, it directs him specifically to Masha, because Masha, there can be a lot in his life, right? And he can rush from one Masha to another. Here, and she specifically identifies the blood by the customer. But there is another point here, that when using the customer's blood, there is such a magic concept as binary. In runes, if blood is always used, then first everything that the enchanted person should experience in love magic is always experienced by the customer first, and then only this effect goes to the object.
So it's like the other side of the coin.
Yes.
Yes. That is, if you want to get something from another person, be prepared that you will survive it yourself.
Yes.
Well, are you ready? Yes. Is the customer often ready, well, for such a condition?
The fact is that not everyone understands how they will feel. Everyone agrees. But when it starts to bother them, and when it's bad and difficult and hard for them, they get bored. Yes, that is, they still manifest themselves in different ways. But usually it just lasts up to 5 days. Yes, it is a condition. It can be endured in any case. The only thing is that people with unstable mentality, yes, or hypochondriacal, they can say that no, I don't want to, let's finish it all. Again, everything is discussed here at the very beginning. That is, if a person is ready to fight, he goes for it. If a person, well, as far as he needs it, then such people, as usual, well, can say that let's finish. I don't need it. I've changed my mind.
Well, that is, can we give a reverse course?
Naturally, all runic staves, they are activated. They can be activated like fire. They can be activated by cold. That is, runes in general. These are the 4 elements, right? Activation can sometimes even be your own breathing. Well, again, if you work for yourself, And if you ask for something for yourself and draw runes on your body, then you can activate them with your breath. Of course, not with fire on the body. Well, in principle, the most standard activation for runes. It's a candle flame.
All right. That's about it. Since we have already touched upon this moment of activation and deactivation of the rune. That is, I understand that if a person just got himself some runes in the form of the same cards, will they just be like just cards that don't work until he activates them? Or will he still be able to start some kind of magical action with them?
Well, here, buying runes and then taking them in your hands, yes, here you should get acquainted with them. It is necessary to get acquainted with each rune. It is necessary to feel it. Before getting acquainted with runes in general, it is necessary to elementary at least read what each rune means. I can't tell you. Many people are turning, asking, teach me how to work with runes. I can teach theory, but to feel the runes somehow, to look for an approach to them, to understand when they should be taken. Yes, when asked, well, tell me a fortune. Right. I want to tell fortunes on the runes. I understand that runes are no answer to this person. Well, as it were. That is, here is necessary to have respect for the runes, so as not to disturb them. Here in vain, do not pull. Well, in principle, this is how it is necessary to turn to any instrument, and besides the tarot. But it's not enough to buy them in runes. That is, some say, well, again, this is all from the internet, that each rune should be sprinkled with its own blood. I don't understand why to do this, honestly. That is, you having taken the runes, having got acquainted with them, having felt each rune, you can simply ask, as roughly speaking, a test question. Is it day or night? Is the sun shining now, or is it not shining outside my window? That is, if you understand that they are already telling you the truth, there is already a relationship.
But you also said that there is an appeal to the runes. That is, as I understand it, is it correct to call the runes a certain force or the force behind them? And you said that there is still an appeal to the gods. What is the difference and what kind of power is there with these stones and bones, or just symbols there?
Look, if we ask for runes, there are such ironic stakes that work for winning the lottery, for, let's say, purchasing housing, so that the circumstances in a person's life develop so that housing, their own housing appears. Yes, it all even turns out that there may be a change of work for the better. Yes, and some lucrative contracts, and the arrival of clients who will contribute to the accumulation of funds, and, as a result, the purchase of real estate. It will be difficult to do this on the forces of the room, because the goal, is significant. That's why we can summon Odin here, right? When we invoke any god in the magic of magic, we have to thank him for it. In Greek magic, these are called gifts. To bring gifts, as a rule, gifts in the form of magic are brought to the gods under a tree. And it can be bread, it can be wine, it can be cognac or whiskey. In other words, there is no sacrifice here, as in black magic. Everything here is very, let's say, loyal, yes, ugly. Again, many can read on the internet that Odin needs to carry only cognac and black bread. But sometimes it happens that you go in to buy a certain something for a god or goddess, and, well, you buy something that you didn't plan to buy at all. That is, it seems that you are ruled, let's say, by this goddess already, and she herself takes from the shelf what she would like. It also happens. Regarding the presentation of gifts to the gods, you always need to tempt yourself, yes, firm cups. That is, if we present wine, we ourselves must take 3 sips, and only then, as it were, present it. If it's sweets, bread, pastries, we ourselves have to take a bite 3 times, Only then present it. And there is still such a moment as to understand whether the gifts were accepted or not accepted. That's usually it. If we present wine, it seems to have a very unusual taste. It's very tasty. If it's bread, then well, the impression is that it may not be the first freshness, but you taste it. And it also has some kind of taste like this, as if it's fresh.
That is, it is a sign that. I see. Let's return to the drawing of signs on the human body. And, well, as I understand it, you can not only apply your body on your own, yes, but also to another person, if he asks. You can also apply it in the form of a tattoo. What, how effective is it, and is it worth doing it at all?
I have repeatedly had it that I was addressed as young people, such young girls. That's why older people, they already understand that they need to ask which part of the body to apply, and what to apply. People who are younger, well, they think they were offered. Oh yes, that's interesting. Moreover, they choose not even according to the composition of the runes, but they just like the drawing, becoming runic itself. They don't even have a clue what it works for, how it works. I had a case where a girl put a runic formula under her chest for some reason. The Votronic formula was supposed to, let's say, lead customers to it. She was doing, in general, a manicure like a beauty salon, and it turned out that our body is divided into two halves, right? One that takes, yes, from the outside world. Our other half she gives. And the girl, let's just say, drew it on the wrong side. And so it turned out that, yes, she did not acquire clients, but she became a client of many, including banks. Do you understand? Because the runes are here, if you stipulate every rune, you need to take into account every moment, every word. Before you ask for something, it is very important here that even each prefix is not for without that is everything. It's very important here, and if something is not specified somewhere, yes, that's how it is there. Well, I liked these symbols, yes. She didn't even really understand them, that they were runes. So I decided to apply them to myself. But they told me that it was like for wealth, for prosperity here, but since the runic formula was applied incorrectly, yes, it gives back to our side. Then, accordingly, clients did not go to her, but she became a client. There are people who, let's say, do not apply the runic steel correctly on the side of the body where it is necessary. In the place where it is necessary, having become a runic, he does not work all his life. Here, let's say he can work for a year or two, yes, then his work expires, and what to do? That is, even if you burn out this runic stave, there are still scars. Sometimes there are scars in the form of runes. That is, they still remain on the body. And when the validity period of a runic stave or rune ends, these runes already work against, they work the other way around, bringing harm.
That is why it is better not to apply anything at all to the body. All right. What kind of process is this kind of stipulation, or what?
Yes, so some arnologists say that it is not necessary, let's say, to stipulate each rune that is included in the runic stave. I believe that each rune needs to be specified because each rune carries its own information. Yes, it has its own task in this chronic composition, first of all. And secondly, it is necessary to show elementary respect for those bruns who are in this ironic composition, because it's easy to draw an ironic stave and say here I want this, that. It's disrespectful, and I very much doubt that this runic stave will do as you want. Most likely, either it will not work, or it will work to the detriment of the person. If we show respect for the runes, and list which runes are included in the runic stave, yes, we stipulate each rune, let's say Runa Algis, she is here in this composition, working for so-and-so, so-and-so. Yes, the soul rune it gives, let's say, energy to this charter. Yes, because, well, the runic steel should work on something, right? If we are talking about the power of runes, then there must necessarily be a soul rune at least, which will nourish this stave and move, and, let's say, fulfill what we are asking for. If we include gods, let's say Odin, in the runic stave, we ask one to help us with something. We definitely stipulate that we will bring gifts to Odin during the day for helping us in this work. This is how we stipulate the runes. Here, we launch them with fire or with breath. Some may burn, but this is so, this is, say, without a way back. That is, if you decide that I want it to be like this, and I won't change my mind there in a day or two, and I don't want to return the impact back, then the runic steel can be burned. Then that's it. Well, there won't be a way.
In general, once and for all.
Yes. What is deactivation? Deactivation. This is if we stipulate the runic stave that we have given him a task, yes, but the runes spoke, and we say, that's when this runic stave does its job, it will be deactivated. As a rule, all incineration is deactivated, but sometimes it can also be deactivated by water, that is, it can be thrown into the river, as a rule, where the water is flowing. But again, it all depends. Or you cannot deactivate it. You cannot specify it. I know many runologists who, well, they say, let's say I set a certain job, yes, but I myself, let's say, do not know approximately the time when Stav will do this work, yes. In other words, there are moments in my life when I want to get it throughout my life. Therefore, here we can say that I deactivate this stav after it fulfills my task, my request. Here, well, let's say you can stipulate that this ironic stav will do its job there until a certain date, specify this date here, and deactivate it on this date. How did I even come to the runes? I came to the runes through a dream. I dreamed of 3 fire runes in my dream. I was still very, very young at that time, and I didn't understand what runes were, as it were, and where to read it. Well, actually, there wasn't much internet then, somewhere you could read and watch. And I started to get interested. I went and started to sort of look for books at flea markets. Yes, well, let's just say that the force led me there. I started looking. I found it as if just about the Scandinavian peoples initially, and then I saw them drawing it all on the rocks there. And I realized that, well, the runes came to me in a dream. That's how it all started for me. Therefore, those who just take the runes in their hands and want to start working immediately understand something, do something for themselves. Every runologist, he fills himself with bumps, absolutely everyone, because ironic magic. This, in principle, is like any magic. It's not as simple as it seems, yes. This is not some proven mechanism that you bought for yourself, and it will work for you without combat errors. Definitely there may be some kind of unaccountedness somewhere, yes. Well, it's elementary even when a customer comes, let's say, and says, I want to be there with another person. Yes, I just want to be friends with him. Some kind of ritual is being done. Yes, they are selecting compositions that will specifically work to bring people closer together, so that they have common interests and so on. But the customer here does not say that I was once friends with this person, but I quarreled. This is already such a moment when you need to first remove the resentment that was after this quarrel. Yes, that is, here you can go the way that you erase from memory, let's say, a person, yes, some offensive actions or things from another person. Here you can simply, let's say, redirect, make a transformation of a person's consciousness so that he decides to make peace. But just a right to find, let's say, common ground, to find some common interests, common themes, it will not work, because there is resentment. Therefore, it is very important here that the person who turns to the runologist, he tells, well, when a person comes to a psychologist for an appointment, yes, he tells everything in full, how the story began, how it developed, and how it ended. It's the same with the runologist. You have to come and tell me how it was, just not hiding anything.
And tell me, please, the power. Yes, you said. Here I was led by force. What kind of power is this, and how did you understand that it leads you?
I don't know. It can't be explained. Well, many people ask. When I lay out the runes, I look at some situation there. I get, this is how we all used to watch film strips in childhood. Yes, it's like slides, pictures. Here, these pictures go exactly the same way, and it seems like you are sitting watching some kind of movie. I do not know how to explain it.
So it just comes.
Yes, it's just that this information comes, and that's it, and you sit there, as if telling everything you see. All right.
And before you started practicing, whether the same pictures came to you or not. Or you know for sure that when you practice, yes, whether it's runes, whether it's Toro, and then these film strips start coming to you.
But the first ID films started coming to me at all at the age of 2. I told my mother. Mom laughed at me and said there is no such thing here. Where do you see it? That is, I told her what was going on in the room. She said, there is no such thing here. Calm down. Well, don't make it up. And I still remember what it was. Well, that's all I told her. And throughout even my childhood, I told my girlfriends how their fate would turn out. What I saw, I told my closest circle. They all know that, in principle, I have been reading since childhood.
And there was no handy tool.
There were. Why? Why wasn't there? As a child, I started guessing with ordinary playing cards. Yes, but the fact is that I have my grandfather. He reads cards. So my aunt, she is engaged. She is a whisperer. That is, I basically have this breed. And say that there you know how many relatives say, yes, don't do nonsense, but why do you need it? That is, there was no such thing in my family. That is, it was taken for granted as the norm. And somewhere even they suggested something to me. Somewhere they gave me some advice. Well, I grew up in this topic. Everything came dosed, and everything came somehow on time. I made my first love spell at the age of 12. I didn't understand what I was doing, I'm being honest. For some reason, I decided that it was necessary to do so I did it. And then, when I was probably 18 or 20 years old there, I told my aunt about it. She says, you made a spell on him then. And I was like, well, I thought I needed to do this so that we could be together. That's it.
Can we say that something was driving you then?
Yes, of course.
And now there are the same feelings that in practice someone is doing something for you.
Now I have, let's say, support, but I have had it for the last 10 years. Yes, that is, I communicate with the deceased. They come to me, prompt me, tell me. If I do something wrong somewhere, they scold me. If I need to influence someone somewhere, they tell me how I need to do it. That is, I have more contact now with the deceased.
These are the deceased, me, your relatives. Your relatives who have nothing to do with the people who come to you.
These are the relatives of my father's family, although I accepted the gift from my mother's family.
They come in a dream, or perhaps when you are in some state, or even in the process of being awake, when you are talking. That's when and how it manifests itself.
There is such a state. It is described in books, the alpha state, when we can just lie down during the day, take a nap. Yes, it is such a pleasant sleepy state. This is not going into a deep sleep. Usually, in this alpha state, more things come to me, dreams, yes. When I need to see something, I can, as it were, enter this alpha state and view some situation. As for the deceased relatives, they come in a dream and, as a rule, it happens from 3 to 5 in the morning in this period of time. And from what I see now, this, by the way, is also described in the literature. When relatives come, the whole family gathers and let's say there is some kind of problem in the family, or one of the people in this family is sick, or someone has gone down some wrong path there. They all gather and they decide. That is, one may say, it's time to take him to us, and someone says, no, he hasn't done that yet. That is, here it goes just like a meeting. At this point, I just kind of like them to me. I have a separate place there, let's say, in communication at the table. I'm sitting here listening to this, and when they come to some final result, they say, this should be like this, and like this. Well, as a rule, I have to. Even if I don't communicate with this person, this often happens. I can be in a quarrel with him. I still have to somehow get in touch with this person, inform him that this should be done like this, like this. It happened when I was shown something about clients, yes, some information. Well, if they're relatives, they can still somehow listen, yes, because they trust me with this. That is, customers, they think that I want to scare them there or something else. But in the end, when after a while it turns out like this, as I said, well, the relationship then, of course, changes.
And what is the interest of the dead in our world?
Well, they think that they are all like our grandparents. Even being there, they still want us to live according to the laws, so that we do not violate them, so that we live honestly, so that we do not deceive ourselves, so that we do not commit bad deeds. That is, even being there, they still have, one can say, their soul hurts for us. In other words, they are responsible for us. And many relatives become guardian angels of those whom they loved, let's say, very much during their lifetime, and they protect. And even if the soul of a deceased person is reborn, yes, here, then it is still possible to communicate with this person. Yes, with this soul, it still remains.
Well, a lot of practitioners claim that there is no clear division into white and black. Yes, there is no clear division into God and the devil, but there is simply a force, a certain force, that the magician uses.
That's right.
And then how about all that with relatives?
Look, let's take it elementary, right? The church. It's kind of white, right? But you can come to the church and put, let's say, inverted candles there. Yes, do some kind of ritual, and it will work. Question: why? It's white. It's what's supposed to protect us. But the negative work done in the church, it will work. Therefore, everything depends on the message here. Just like with the help of black magic, you can try to cure a person of something. Yes. Well, I don't mean the disease. I mean cure drug addiction. Yes. Alcoholism. You can do it with the help of black magic. That is, to bring, let's say, a positive for a person, and not just a negative. Therefore, it all depends on what purpose you are applying for. And everyone probably knows that, as it were, the priests in the church, yes, they also have abilities and they can also, let's say, well, not always serve people for the good. I also know cases when grandmothers who sell candles stand in the church. Yes, they collect the stubs from the candlesticks and then sell these stubs to magicians who can do work with these stubs. Also destructive work, you know, not in blah. Therefore, it all depends on the approach. It all depends on the intention of the magician. Everything is balanced in this world. We cannot say that we are 100% protected there, that everything will be as it should be. In other words, a person is already born with some prescribed program, and this program can be changed. But I believe that it is possible to delay some deadlines somewhere, and then it's a couple of years. Yes, you can change some events somewhere, but again, if a certain event should happen to a person, it will happen to him. It just might not happen in the situation it was supposed to happen in. If we delay this moment, it will happen a little later, but it will definitely happen anyway. Tarot and runes, yes? They can tell us about the probability of certain events. That is, a client happens to me when she turns there 3 times a week with the same question. I explain to her what I'm saying. Look, the cards first say this, then they say this, then they say this, and it all depends on something. I told you if you do this, yes, then the result will be like this. She takes it, does the opposite. That's it. The situation is changing. In other words, the situation is going in a completely different direction. Therefore, tarologists, uranologists in their forecasts, yes, they are truthful when they look at a question for the first time, the very first time. That's when the answer to this question will be the most correct. When this question begins to be asked only with a permutation of words or changing their, let's say, today for tomorrow, yes, then it's already like this. You know, this is no longer accurate information, and as a rule, I do not undertake to answer such questions, because then they will say, and this is not so.
Okay, but again, about the foregone conclusion or the fact that every person has a prescribed. The scenario sounds like it's too fatalistic. And especially the moment that a person is not able to change it all. But how do people believe that if they turn to a magician, to a specialist, he will tell you some loopholes and the like? Is that so? Can a magician change a person's fate or not? Or magic in general?
I get it. Well, look, even here is the same appeal of a person to a magician. It is also already prescribed. I am sometimes asked, but what if this person did not go to the magician, yes, and did not order damage therefore so and so, for so and so? I say, I would go and order, because the person on whom this commission was ordered, and as a result of which this person died, it was so prescribed for him that he had to die from this damage. In other words, everything is predetermined and, as it were, well, this is my position, this is my point of view.
I see. Thank you very much. Tell me please, protection at work, do you need it? Well, specifically for you, let's say, do you use any methods?
Of course, I use runic protection, made specifically for me, with an amulet, and I believe that in general, every person, he should wear protection either with an amulet for good luck or for well-being. Or girls sometimes ask to make an amulet to meet their significant other. In other words, it all needs to be worn exclusively on your body, so that there is an energy exchange with this amulet, and the amulet is fueled by energy.
All right. And well, except, let's say, luck, prosperity, attracting second halves, can runes protect from something else? The same damage from the eye.
Of course, this is a negative. Exactly the same runic amulet is made, which is worn on the body, and which protects both from physical danger, from magical danger induced by chance, let's say, which a person can catch, right? What is an accidental catch? Well, it's no secret that all black magic payoffs are held at intersections. As a rule, alcoholic beverages, money can be left behind, sometimes even animals can be sacrificed, and people out of their ignorance can raise it, or it can just pour out somewhere under someone's feet, some kind of water. Yes, that is, let's say she lives in a private house. There are 5 people there. Yes, this water was poured out near the threshold. Let's say it was night. This water was intended for one person. Yes, all 5 people entered it. Yes, that is, this is what they accidentally caught. Here, a runic amulet can also protect against this, which will specifically be aimed at protecting a person. I wanted to ask about the power, and what kind of power is this that magicians use? And with what power do magicians work? Well, let's say, any magic, any direction of magic. Yes, this is a certain egregor. Yes, this is an egregor that has already been worked out. That is, worked out with what? The fact that a lot of people turned to him. The more appeals, the more power this egregor has. And, therefore, turning to any power, if we say this about runes, there are gifts there, we present gifts, that is, we accumulate, we strengthen. If we turn to the devil, we sacrifice animals as a rule. In this way, we also accumulate this, saturate this egregor with a certain power. Here, there is, I do not know if you have heard or not, now it has become very fashionable, to take austerity. Has anyone heard? You heard right, 100 days. Here, it's the same system. You take 100 days, yes, you deny yourself that without which you could not at all. Let's say you wake up every morning, and you have no idea how you can live without coffee. You refuse this coffee and say, the universe, for the fact that I will not drink coffee every morning, I will accumulate my personal strength. Yes, and for this, as it were, reward me with something, and something that you want to get. And this is already a proven topic, it really works. In the same way, Gregor, he also accumulates a certain power, a certain energy, yes, and then is rewarded. Do people come to you who feel the negative impact of invisible entities? Is that how you handle it? How do you work with this? Such people come. I want to say that it is not always people who feel some kind of negative influence on themselves. There is a negative influence on them, half of them. Mentally ill people who seem to, that is, who can hear some sounds, knocks, voices, and so on. That is, and the most difficult thing is to convince a person who is mentally ill, especially if this person came to the consultation himself. It's one thing when this person comes with someone close, with relatives, with a husband or wife. You can somehow explain to the person who came with them that you are not to me, you are a psychotherapist. And if a person comes by himself, he is offended, sincerely offended, that I refused to help. This person still goes and looks for someone who will help him, and there is such a trap. Not all, let's say, people who do magic, they are honest. Some say, yes, I will treat you, they charge money for it, but the person was mentally ill, so he remained.
All right. But in the case of those who are really with some kind of impact, that is, some kind of being came to him. Have you ever encountered such a thing, and how did you deal with it?
I have come across such a thing. Purges of organic magic are usually performed. There are many directions for cleansing, including cleansing from entities or settlers, or necroprivation. Again, here it is necessary to use diagnostics to view specifically what is on a person, because these are completely three different substances. In addition, as a rule, you also need to clean the house or the apartment where this person lives. And the most important thing is to find out where the person got it from, where the person took it, or someone did this magical work for him, yes, with the settlement, or the person took it on himself, who can take it upon themselves. This can be taken over by people who are emotionally weak, psychologically unstable. Well, as a rule, alcoholics, drug addicts, they all live with a larva. They all have it. And why do they continue to use alcohol, drugs? Because it's not they who want it. It's not their physical body that wants it. That's what Lyudmila wants, which is in them, and energetically she being saturated. Yes, she gives, let's say, some remnants of what she has profited. She already gives to the physical body, that is, as pleasure. A lot depends here, and not only on me, but also on the person who turns to me for help. Because there is a long period when you can't drink alcoholic beverages, when you can't be in a large crowd of people, yes. That is, if it's 50-50 here, that is, I'm doing my job, but you also need to follow my recommendations. But, as a rule, these people can be, let's say, cured. Yes, you can remove it all. well, provided that the person follows the recommendations.
And if there are some universal recommendations, how not to pick up?
Where protection, this is the most, let's say, effective way to avoid. That is, even if someone does some serious magical work on a person, then this protection can either be lost or, well, like those protections that I recommend, it's on jade. Yes, here I have them. This stone itself, it can crack, not it can disintegrate. That is, in my practice, my clients have had this. After it crumbled there, it was damaged. Yes, it means that this stone, this amulet, took on this negative message that was directed at a person. After that, a new protective amulet is made, and this one, as if all that remains, is deactivated.
I see. Can you stop practicing magic? I don't know there, by decision, by click, and any other, let's say, magician.
I don't know any other. I've tried it in my life. Well, let's say, for the last 10 years, yes, I don't work anywhere. And I am engaged exclusively in providing magical services. Before that, yes, I have 3 educations. That is, I was working. But all the same, everything constantly led me to the fact that, well, drop it, drop everything. In other words, I came across some books, I came across some articles, I came across people who, had to work on because, well, there was no other way. So they did some such things that, well, they just had to work on them. There were such people, yes, who, let's say, asked for help somewhere. I understood that I could help, yes, and there is not just advice, but regarding the fact that they went to me there to tell fortunes, view the future and so on all the time. That is, whatever I was doing, but nevertheless as if, even if I left it, I still came to it.
So you can't refuse.
Well, no, I can't refuse. Well, I do not know how to refuse.
Lyudmila, thank you very much for answering our questions. Guys, send your ideas, suggestions to us by email. All the best to you and be vigilant.